Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome to Tarot Thursday. I'm Kim, your typical woo-woo loving host. If you're first time here seeing my face or hearing my voice, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. This is a podcast I created because I hold on, I forgot to turn off my podcast. What the heck? All right, there we go. By the way, that's the Subtle Arts of Not Giving a Beep podcast, in case you were wondering. Anyways, now you know a little bit more about me. So, as I was saying, I started this podcast because I decided I want to go on a mystical road trip for myself to kind of learn what I can about anything that kind of sparks interest in me, and to see if any of it sticks in my path and see if it really works for my authentic soul. And I thought, why not share everything I learn with other people and maybe help them out do the same thing? That's kind of what I'm here in this world to do. That's kind of how I feel. So I do 2 episodes a week on this podcast. The first one is usually magical, mystical, that kind of stuff. Crystals, herbs, all that good stuff. Sometimes a little woo-woo stuff. And Thursday's edition is solely dedicated to tarot. We are taking 1 card a week, and we are diving into it, talking about the meaning, associations that go with, all that kinds of good stuff. So if that sounds cool to you, then you found the right place. Once again, my name is Kim, and I'm an astrologer, I'm a tarot reader, I am a wellness and spiritual life coach, soon to be a herbalist, and yeah, I'm super stoked. I love learning this stuff, and I love helping other people with it. It's kind of my thing. Anyways, so as I said, today's Thursday, so we're talking about tarot. Before we jump into the card of the day, which is the 3 of Swords, we're going to do a little housekeeping and shameless plugging. If you would like to reach out to me, you can do that through my social media or an email. They are in the description box. If you want to support the podcast, there's ways to do that financially through my Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. If you don't have cash, don't stress. If you would just like, comment, share, review, subscribe, do all that kind of good stuff, get my name and voice out there into the algorithm, and that would be much appreciated. If you want more information on this and so much others, make sure you check out the Medium publication that comes along with this. And if you're into history, feminism, and women, make sure to check out my other podcast. It's called Where All the Ladies At. It basically talks about women in history. Some we know, some we don't, but shines a spotlight on a lot of really cool, badass women, right? Some very cool ladies. Anyway, so if you're into that, check that out too. That is it for the shameless plugging and the housekeeping. Let's jump into the 3 of Swords. Alright guys, so 3 of Swords. Alright, so I know when you look at this, first of all, let me just do some little warnings before. When I'm talking about the imagery for this card, I am talking about the traditional deck, the Rider-Waite. In this case, that would be a cloud rainy day with a big heart with 3 swords stuck in it. Doesn't seem too appealing when you get it, right? I also, when I'm talking about reading it, I do know that people read reverses in different ways, but I am just using the traditional method, and that is it, right? Okay, so I think that's all the PSAs. Yes. All right, so let's get started. What is the meaning of the 3 of Swords? You know, when this card appears, first of all, people freak out. It doesn't look like a super friendly card. And in a lot of ways, it's really not. There are some different interpretations, and we can talk about that, but as we go. Mostly this signals like a lot of emotional pain, heartbreak, grief, some betrayal. It's kind of sudden if this card comes up. But the thing is, pain is not just something to be feared or avoided, right? It's a part of being a human, and in many ways, it teaches us things. So when we do experience those emotionally deep wounds, we often find ourselves at crossroads, right? Do we allow the pain to define us, or do we shape our choices and interactions from a place of fear, or do we face it? Do we process it? Do we use it to foster growth, right? The Three of Swords asks us to take the latter path, right? This card is not just about sadness. You're going to be sad. It's also about clarity, right? It reveals truth we might have been avoiding, even if that truth is painful. Maybe we've been ignoring red flags. Maybe we've held on to a belief that no longer serves us. Maybe we've resisted change because it just seems too overwhelming to face. This Three of Swords doesn't point out the wound. It tells us that we can't move forward until we acknowledge it. You know, it's not something we like to think about. Sorry, my cat is doing biscuits on my butt. It's cute, but not comfortable. So weird. Just let's think about the last time you had an emotional breakthrough, right? It wasn't from a comfortable experience, right? Maybe it came from an argument, maybe it came from whatever. Perhaps you found yourself, you finally let yourself grieve. Pain can be an invitation to confront what we've been running from. And that's really the hidden gift of the Three of Swords. It talks about emotional honesty. It's not here to punish you. It's here to help you set you free, right? But you have to face the truth before you can do that. No matter how much it hurts, it has to be done. So when this card comes up, it often saying, just don't run from being discomfort. You gotta lean into it. You gotta sit with it. You gotta let it reveal what needs healing. And then once you've done that, you can move forward. And that'll bring clarity and strength in the next batch. I think that's super important, right? So, we'll talk about the reverse and everything. Sometimes when I get this card, I do tell people, it can mean that there's more than, if you're talking about relationships, it could mean there's more than one person in a relationship. And I always caveat that by saying, because when you say that to someone, the first thing they think of is, oh my God, someone's cheating on me. And I said, no, it could just be friends. It could be family. It could be people. It could be old patterns, right? It's not something that's definite. And also, I don't think it's bad, because you can also see it as once you take those swords out and you really face it, then it allows that wound to heal, right? You get a little scar, but it's healed. And I also look at it like that. When it comes to, sorry, my cat is requiring me to pet it. When it comes to the symbology, all right, sorry about that, guys. I had to pet my cat. She was demanding it. Let's take a jump into symbology, because I think as we open up symbology, a lot more clarity will come into play when it comes to this card, right? This is one of the most impactful, visually striking cards there is in the tarot deck, right? There's certain cards that just everybody knows about, whether you're into tarot or not, right? The Three of Swords, the Tower, these are all very right? So typically it's like I said, it's a stormy sky, and there's the heart, and it has three swords in it, right? The heart at the center of the card talks about our emotions, right? Our vulnerabilities, our capacity for love, right? It is the core of our emotional level, right? Now, if you think about it like that, the sword represents, in tarot, it's logic, truth, intellect, communication, right? There's three swords piercing the heart, and that really talks about the pain isn't only emotional, right? It's tied to your thoughts, it's words, perceptions, right? Words cut deep, right? Everybody's heard that term. The Three of Swords is that in action. Sometimes the pain we feel is inflicted by harsh words, whether that comes from others or most of the time, my opinion, from within. It's our own voices that hurt us the most, right? Negative self-talk, destructive thought patterns, or a truth we've been kind of avoiding is just as painful as an external betrayal, right? So, and then you have the stormy clouds and the rain in the background, right? You can't really mistake this sign. It's emotional turbulence, right? But what happens after a storm? The sky's clear, right? Rainbows appear. The air is fresher, right? The world seems almost renewed. So the rain in this image, though tied to the sorrow or the pain or whatever you're feeling, it's also helping represent cleansing process. Emotional pain, while it's very intense, can be very purifying. It can wash away, a good cry can wash away illusions and reveal truths. And we might not have seen those otherwise if we hadn't had that moment, right? Another interesting part of this when it comes to symbology is the fact there's three, right? There's three swords. The number 3 represents communication expression, right? Meaning that this pain might be connected to something that was said or something that's remained unsaid. And that could be an honest conversation. Perhaps it's time to kind of just release unspoken feelings. And because those tend to weigh you down, right? The visual elements of this card are very intense, but they're very, there's no subjectiveness to this, right? They serve as a reminder that all storms pass. You may feel overwhelmed by this pain now, but it doesn't last forever, and what's more important, how we choose to process it, right? Are we going to allow it to harden us, or are we going to use it as a stepping stone to kind of heal more? And that's kind of what the symbology means for this, right? Now we're going to jump into the numerology, which is interesting because we just talked about the number 3. Numbers in tarot are kind of hidden keys, right? They reveal much deeper layers. And I think sometimes when we're tarot readers, we don't necessarily always pay attention to numerology. We're going more of the traditional way. But the interesting thing is that numerology and that stuff was all incorporated into the tarot in the beginning, right? So the number 3 is about growth, creation, and expansion. Now, that may sound ironic, right? Because this is a card that's focused on pain and all that. But if you really think about it, biggest growth moments, at least in my life, have come from pain, have some sort, right? Just like that seed has to break the soil, sometimes growth is a little uncomfortable, right? But it's needed so that new things can happen. In tarot, 3s are often associated with collaboration, communication, synthesis, as I said before, right? For example, if we look at the 3 of Cups, it represents joyous connection, emotional fulfillment. The 3 of Pentacles, all that, right? So the 3 of Swords, it's about the emotional and mental growth that comes from facing difficult truths. This is a kind of expansion that happens when we acknowledge pain, we process it, and we learn from it. Discomfort is not our enemy. We have been taught, this is one of my things. I'm a wellness coach, guys. And one of the biggest things I talk about is the fact that we have been taught so many things and told so many things that they become who we are, right? So we've been told time and time again that discomfort is bad. It's not good. We need to try to get rid of it. But the truth really is discomfort is there for a reason. Pain is there for a reason. Do I like pain? No. Do I hate seeing people in pain? Yes. But it is there for a reason. It's teaching us all something, right? Whether that's the collective that it's teaching or it's teaching you as an individual. That pain is teaching you something, right? It's really, really important that we all know that discomfort and change and fear and anxiety, though it's not great at extended purposes, it is there for a reason, and it is not our enemy. It's our body talking to us, and we have to figure out what our body's trying to say, because the real enemy is stagnation. The real enemy is standing still because you're so afraid to move forward, because you don't want to be in discomfort, you don't want to be in pain, you don't want any of these things to happen. That is the real enemy. It's that simple, right? And that's what the 3 of Swords is saying. So think about, I want you guys to take a second. Think about a time when you experienced deep emotional pain, right? If you look back at it now, can you see how that experience shaped you? Can you see how it forced you to grow and change and look at things in a new way? That is what the 3 at work is really doing. It's pushing us into transformation, right? The 3 of Swords is suggesting that healing happens in stages, right? 3 swords, right? Here's the three stages. You have the initial shock, right? That's when it hits. That's when it feels unbearable, right? That's when your emotions are so raw and clarity is really hard to find. Your mind is not really focused, right? Then you have the processing phase. And this is where you begin to sit with the pain. You understand it. You work through it. This is the messy middle, right? This is where you have to do all the emotional work. And then you have the expansion. You emerge from the experience, right? You have more wisdom, more emotional depth. You've grown, you're stronger. And even though pain may have left scars on those and scars on scars and scars, those scars are still proof that you survived and you evolved. So when you see the 3 of Swords, just know that it's not about suffering. It's about transformation. The pain you're feeling isn't here to break you. It's here to move you forward. It's just a stepping stone. It's a momentary necessity of discomfort that will lead to greater self-awareness and emotional freedom. And that is kind of the numerology for that. So now we're going to talk a little bit about upright versus reversed. Once again, let me repeat, I know not everybody reads reverse the same, but let's take a look at, right? So we've kind of talked a lot about what it's like to be upright, right? It's talking about emotional pain, heartbreak. It's not Sanskrit. It's a reminder of emotions. You have to confront those emotions directly, right? We've talked about that. So what happens if it's in reversed, right? I'm not going to repeat myself when it comes to what it's like when you pull it upright, right? It says don't ignore your hurt. It's about acknowledging it, moving through it, and learning from it, right? If it's in reversed, what does it mean? It's a signal of a time of healing, right? The worst of the pain may be behind you, right? You're on a coast of emotional recovery. It doesn't mean that all the wounds are healed, but it does mean that the storm has passed and you can now start to really work through and process things, right? You're going to do it with greater clarity and balance. It also can suggest, though, that you're avoiding facing your pain or are unwilling to have that honest conversation that you need to have. Reverse the card is really kind of a reminder that healing can't happen if we're still resisting the necessary emotional work. So when it's in reversed, it's kind of almost like like you could be healing, but for some reason you're not addressing all the issues and you're not really, you haven't pulled that sword out, right? So let's talk about the element, sign, and planet. So 3 of Swords, air sign, right? We know that all swords are going to be air, right? That's just a give me. In this case, the 3 of Swords is also connected with Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So that's the planet of love and beauty and relationships. So the 3 of Swords is often related to relationships, difficulties, and the heartache, right? And it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be friendship. It could be family, whatever it is. It's still relationship oriented. And Libra likes balance. So when this card comes out, it's often like saying, hey, your emotional life needs to be rebalanced. You need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. This could be like relationships that have gone out of alignment. You need to find inner harmony, all that stuff. That's what this means. The card itself is associated with Saturn, and Saturn is the planet of discipline and structure and lessons learned from hardship. Because of Saturn's influence, this card really talks about emotional pain you're experiencing can lead to wisdom, right? Look, it's not an easy teacher, but ultimately Saturn helps us grow through challenges we face. So therefore the card it's a card of tough lessons that need to be had so that you can shape you can be shaped into a much wiser, much stronger person, right? So let's go. Crystals, herbs, and goddesses and colors. So, I like to do this because I think the more you expand your repertoire, the more information you have, the better you can have a good, help your querent or yourself, whoever you're reading for. So crystal-wise, I would say amethyst, right? It's got healing properties. It's meant to calm the mind. It relieves stress. And it really helps with emotional healing. it has a very calming energy, and it can help us process grief and soothe our emotions and really help with mental clarity. And when you're having like emotional turbulence, that is a great thing to have, right? So amethyst might be a good stone to kind of incorporate into your daily life, however you can manage that, right? Herb-wise, rosemary is often connected with the Three of Swords, and that's because it's known for clearing negative or stagnant energy and really helping with mental clarity. So when you're having that emotional overwhelm, rosemary can really help you reset your energy and help you find the clarity in all that chaos. So you can do this. You could put it in your bath. You could make an infused oil, even like carry a little rosemary talisman on you. All these things can be very helpful. When I step into the next one, which is the god or goddess, I want you guys to know, like, there's a lot of gods and goddesses that can interconnect, and if you don't follow this this path, you can always find a correlative god or goddess in your mythos if you're very stuck into that. Because the one I chose was Kali, and she is the Hindu goddess of destruction and transformation, right? Obviously, destruction, force of change. She clears away the old to make way for the new, right? Her energy can really help you release all that old emotional patterns and really allow you to heal transformatively, right? She's not about destruction just to be destructive. She does it to clear away what no longer serves you, or so that you can have room to grow. Sorry, that was I usually turn that off. All right. Lastly, let's talk about colors. The Three of Swords is tied to gray, right? Gray is about storms, and we're talking about stormy emotional atmospheres, right? It can also have a little association with silver, and that's about moon's energy. Silver tends to do intuition, emotional clarity, light breakthrough. So if you're working with this cardinal ritual, maybe, or meditation, maybe using a silver or gray candle, anything like that might be helpful, right? How can we use this sword? Well, as usual, guys, it's pretty much the same things, right? You can journal. You can really, journaling is like one of the best ways I use to process my emotions. I've even really found, I don't know the name of the app, but you can look on it. It's available. There's even like audio diaries and journals that you can have on your phone if you don't feel like typing it all out. I use that in the morning because sometimes I'm much better at speaking than I am writing it all down. Which is weird because I'm a writer, but when I'm talking about my own emotions and stuff, sometimes I get clouded and my brain does this. But if I'm speaking, it's much easier to come out. So I would say, even if you don't want to write it, look for an audio diary. I think that could be really great. You know, you can talk about or write about something that's hurting you, something you've lost, whatever it needs. Really, journaling helps you really externalize your emotions. And because you do that, it almost allows you like a third party view. You can gain insight into what really is underneath the surface, right? Also, meditation. You guys know I'm a huge proponent of it. And if you're a first time here, you're going to hear meditation a lot, right? You can really meditate on the image itself and maybe like visualize yourself like moving the swords out. And that can help you kind of move through it, right? Also, self-compassion practices, like, you know, just really allowing yourself to feel your feelings, guys. Here's the thing. Once again, we'll go back to kind of what I said earlier. We've been told so often that, like, why are you crying? All these things. Why are you angry? We've been told these emotions are bad, and so we should not do them. And that's not the case. All of those emotions are there for a reason. You know, yes, if you're angry, don't go out and beat up people. Don't do those things. That's not cool. That's not right, right? But you have a right to be angry. You need to feel it. Your body's telling you need to feel that, right? If you need to cry, cry. So being compassionate to yourself, you know, healing and really judging ourselves, you know, oh, I should be at this place in my process. No, everybody's process is different. You have to recognize healing is not linear. You may feel really great for 3 days, and then the 4th day, you may want to just cry all day. That is okay. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes kindness towards yourself. So self-compassion is vitally key when it comes to mindfulness and working your way through this. You might also try energy healing, so Reiki, acupuncture, you know, breath work, progressive muscle relaxation, whatever it is. Energy healing can really help move out those stagnant emotions, right? focus on clearing your heart chakra and releasing emotional baggages. Those can all be really great things so that you can incorporate this into your daily mindfulness practice. And that's it, guys. That's it for the Three of Swords. I hope you enjoyed learning about this card. Please don't be scared of it next time you get it. You now know that it's nothing to be scared of. It's just something to work through, right? And that's it, guys. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed. As always, like I said, you can reach out to me via social media. There's ways to do that. You can support the podcast financially through Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon, or just simply liking, comment, reviewing, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. If you want more information, check out the Medium publication. And if you're into history and women and feminism, check out my other podcast called Where All the Ladies At. And that's it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Have a wonderful weekend. And as always, stay curious, stay blessed, and stay safe.